Good morning, everyone. Well, now that we've moved into a new year, I figured it was a good time to do an update on the drought situation across the Midwest. Because as we start 2023, every state in the Midwest is dealing with drought conditions to varying degrees. Taking a look at the wide picture, you can see just to the east across the mid-Atlantic, very little drought conditions to be found. It's been quite wet, but as you go to the west, the story starts to change. And look at all the shades of yellow, brown, and red showing up, indicating our 5 categories of drought. But then suddenly the drought disappears in parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. This is at higher elevation, though, up in the Rockies, where it's actually been a pretty active snowfall season so far, but just at higher elevation. You get out of the Rockies, and look how the drought starts to fill back in farther to the west. Now, in the Midwest, who's doing the best, the least amount of drought? That's Wisconsin, Illinois, and Missouri. And particularly, I want to highlight this quarter from central Missouri on up through central Illinois and into southern and central Wisconsin. Not only have there been a lot of fronts that have worked over this area over the last few months, but what's been interesting is there's been a high number of these fronts that have slowed down in this particular area, if not stalling out. And that's kept the rain and snow chances going longer in this area than areas just to the east and just to the west. But the area suffering the worst drought conditions is definitely Kansas and Nebraska. Look at all the red showing up in Kansas and Nebraska, indicating extreme, if not exceptional, drought. And this may come as a little bit of a surprise because we've been talking about cold fronts, low pressure systems, rain and snow chances, but they've mainly been weak fronts. And particularly the low pressure systems, a lot of low pressure systems that have formed over Kansas and Nebraska, but really strengthened and dumped the bulk of their snow and rain farther to the east. So we've really seen a lot of small rain and snow chances, lots of isolated showers, flurries. And there's really been a lack over the last few months of heavy rain, heavy snow that would really put a dent in these drought conditions. So where do we go from here? We could all use some more rain and snow across the Midwest. And let's look just at the next 7 days first. So today, quiet across the Midwest, but we are going to get another low pressure system to move from a west to east across the Midwest Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Then it's back to dry conditions Saturday and Sunday. And then it looks like another low pressure system is going to start to move in on Monday. And particularly with this first low pressure system, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it looks like mostly rain on the front side of it, but as some colder air comes in on the back side, rain changing over to snow. And when it's all said and done, it does look like most in the Midwest are going to see rain and see snow. But how much? Well, let's look just at the rain first. And what we're looking at here is forecasted rain for the next 7 days, so today through next Monday. And honestly, it's looking like more of the same. The area that needs the rain the least, probably going to see the most. And the area that needs the rain the most, probably going to see the least. Look at the rainfall totals that are forecast for the next 7 days across Nebraska and Kansas. Most just seeing a few hundredths of an inch of rain. Now, the most common rainfall total across the Midwest is probably going to be about 1/10 to 1/4 inch, but parts of Missouri and then across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, we're talking about 1/2 inch totals, inch totals, and maybe in north central Indiana, southern Michigan, up to 2 inches of rain. So that's the rain situation. What about the snow situation? Well, for most in the Midwest, not a lot of snow. Pretty typical snowfall amounts for a week in January. So a dusting, 1/10 of an inch, 1/4 inch, inch, inch and a half. That's going to be common in a lot of places. The one area worth highlighting, though, for above normal snowfall, northern Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. And the main reason for this is it looks like, particularly on Friday, lingering snow because of lake effect snow. And that's a little bit unusual for this time of year. Usually in January, we start talking less and less about lake effect snow because the lakes are getting colder and colder and more ice covered. Well, this January, above normal lake temperatures, which has been the case the last several winters. Not a whole lot of ice on the lakes, so the lake effect snow lingers. So in parts of northern Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Now we're talking about 2 and 3 inch snowfall totals over the next 7 days, and particularly in central Michigan, northern Michigan, maybe as much as 6 inches of snow. But that's definitely going to be the exception compared to most of the Midwest. All right, so that's the next 7 days. What about beyond the next 7 days? Well, now we're looking at 8 to 14 days out, January 17th through the 23rd. And it does look like a pretty active weather pattern. There's not going to be a big area of high pressure that's going to come in and camp out over the country, keeping things really dry. It does look like a parade of frontal systems will continue. Well, here we're expecting an area of high pressure to camp out and really keep things dry as across Texas. But I'll also mention that when you look closely, notice that the darkest shades of green, where it's going to be most above normal precipitation, that's not in the Midwest. That's in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Nevada, Idaho, Oregon, Northern California. It looks like for the Midwest, we're going to get the fronts, and more fronts than usual for this time of year, but fast moving fronts. So yes, brief periods with scattered rain and snow showers, but then it's out of here. Not really any signs of heavy rain, heavy snow. So yes, above normal precipitation, we'll take that. That'll help. But it doesn't look like the kind of precipitation that's really going to put a major dent in the drought. And I'll also say, looking at this period, January 17th to the 23rd, most of the precipitation that's going to be falling is probably going to be rain rather than snow, because we're mainly expecting above normal temperatures as well. There are no signs right now of any other Arctic outbreaks.